The way in which an event is subjectively perceived and interpreted is often more important than the objective nature of the event itself. One person's stress is another's exciting challenge. What's upsetting and stressful to you may be challenging and stimulating to someone else. Each of us evaluates the nature of an experience differently, as threatening or exciting, or somewhere in between. We evaluate not only how serious a stressful event is, how big and how pressing it is, but also whether we have the resources to cope with it and what strategies we should use to deal with it. This kind of personal evaluation of stress has been termed cognitive appraisal by psychologist Richard Lazarus. If stress is inevitable, and I think it is, then we have to learn effective coping strategies to deal with it. And that's where health psychologists try to help. They are especially concerned about the practicalities of health. They work at improving health care, they consult on government policies, and they devise strategies to prevent illness and promote health. But ultimately, it's also up to each of us to stay healthy and to develop lifestyles that encourage wellness. And whether you do or you don't, it's going to be in large part a question of psychology, your psychology. In 1900, the primary cause of death was infectious disease, smallpox, tuberculosis, influenza. But a revolution in public health has effectively reduced the terror of these illnesses. Today, the major cause of death is lifestyle. Heart disease, cancer, cirrhosis of the liver, accidents, suicide. They kill us because we smoke too much, drink too much, drive too fast, work too hard. Our psyches are making our bodies more vulnerable than they have to be. And the mind-body connection is becoming increasingly deadly. If there is any illness that combines these psychological and medical issues in an explosive way, it is AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome. There is the emotional impact of AIDS on those who have it and their families and friends. There is the fear of AIDS among high-risk groups, homosexuals, intravenous drug users, and hemophiliacs. There is fear among the general public, and there is even a psychological element in the transmission and prevention of the disease. Thomas Coates at the University of California Medical School is part of a health psychology team that is studying AIDS from a psychosocial perspective. Coates is calling for a broader look at AIDS, combining medical and psychological research to improve our understanding of the disease.
The AIDS epidemic is primarily a behavioral problem. Although it's caused by a virus, it's spread by behaviors. Those behaviors were identified fairly early in the epidemic. So then, in order to stop the epidemic, we need a fuller understanding of the kinds of activities people engage in, where they engage in those activities, the motivations for those activities, and ways of changing those activities to prevent the spread of the infection further.
Coates and his colleagues conduct interview studies with at-risk groups, including single heterosexuals, gays, bisexuals, and intravenous drug users.
First of all, what kinds of places do you usually go to when you want to meet somebody either that you want to have a relationship with or have sex with?
The two most common places I'd go to would be dance clubs and social events at my friends' houses that are usually set up for singles.
In controlling the spread of this epidemic, it's not enough just to tell people what the risky behaviors are. We need to understand a lot more. We need to understand their motivations for engaging in those activities, their potential motivations for changing, and how innovation and change can spread throughout a given community. When the AIDS epidemic started among gay and bisexual men, we knew that about 60 to 70% of the gay and bisexual men in San Francisco practiced anal intercourse. Well, the epidemiologists had found very clearly that this is a very high-risk behavior. The virus spreads very easily through this type of intercourse. We found out some of the motivations for that. People found it very enjoyable, and we found out some of the obstacles to condom usage, not the least of which was the fact that if people were using drugs and alcohol while having sex, they were much less likely to engage in protected activity. Well, that gave us a very clear target for interventions. It let us know that if we could intervene and have people use less drugs and alcohol while having sex, it might be possible to get them to practice safer sex. What we want to do is not only inform people, give them the message, we want to motivate them, and we want to teach them the skills, and we want to change the norms of the community. What this has demanded, and this is where the psychologist gets involved, is interventions at a variety of levels. So, for example, when the media is used to give out motivational messages, it's important that those motivational messages be based on good, sound psychology. To give you an example, there should be enough threat to the individual to arouse their emotions, but not so much so that they want to deny or avoid it. AIDS is probably a unique disease, at least in modern times, in that there isn't a good medical cure. And the psychologist needs to work and probably have a role almost as prominent as the physician in helping the individual take care of himself or herself as they cope with this disease. And it can work in a lot of different ways, and one is simply by trying to increase the quality of life. A second is by not denying the disease, but really helping individuals come to grips with taking care of themselves and collaborating with the appropriate medical systems, whether they be the traditional or alternative medical systems, in taking care of oneself. And then the third has to do with the potential link between one's outlook and the way one responds to infection. We know from other research that depression leads people to get sicker and leads people to have more susceptibility to infectious diseases. And it may be true in the case of AIDS. And whether that's true or not, we don't know that at this point. We hopefully will at some point in the near future. It at least makes sense to try to maintain one's positive outlook and to maintain good health habits as a way of trying to take care of oneself.
Throughout this program, we've seen how health psychologists apply the knowledge and tools of psychology to practical problems of understanding and improving our health.
Next time, we're going to explore two other areas of practical research which are right on the cutting edge of psychology. We're going to look up, out, and beyond to examine the psychology of life and travel in outer space. And then we'll come back down to Earth to look at the psychology of peace. Can we prevent wars and promote peace by using psychology? Researchers are trying to find out. New frontiers in psychology. Next time, I'm Philip Zimbardo.
Funding for this program is provided by Annenberg CPB to advance excellent teaching. For information about this and other Annenberg CPB programs, call 1-800-LEARNER and visit us at www.learner.org. To learn more about the Annenberg CPB Channel series and workshops for teachers, how to take them for credit, how to buy them on video cassette, call 1-800-LEARNER and visit us at www.learner.org/channel.